think it's going to be quite close. Oh my god.
Oh, we've got a full tuck sighting.
We have a full tuck.
Oh, that is a kill deer. I hadn't even seen that.
Woo woo.
All right. Hello, everyone. Hopefully you are as hyped up as I am after that very exciting introduction. So we've got a treat in store. This is the first stream that we've got coming from the Wingspan World Cup 2022. So for those of you who have been taking part in the World Cup so far, you will very well know the absolutely grueling group stage that's been taking place. 160 players split up into 16 groups. And depending on the group size, top 2 or 3 from each group have already secured their place in the next round. But we do have a number of inter-regional qualifying playoff matches to take place, this being the first of 5. So 2 players that we've got today. We have got GeorgeV89, who is from the Netherlands, and they are coming up against Nedmund, who is from the United Kingdom. So George, they were in the North Europe group, and I believe they finished on a record of 7-3-0, so very unfortunate to just miss out. They finished in 4th place, but it was a 3-way tie for 2nd, 3rd and 4th, so very, very close indeed. And very narrowly missing out on the automatic spot. And similarly for Nedmund, they came through in the UK-Ireland group with a record of 6-2. They finished in 3rd, and again, just missing out on the tiebreaker with 2nd place to miss out on that automatic spot. But both players here, they have got their second chance to get their places booked for the next round. I'm very excited for this game, and I'm also equally excited to introduce my commentary partner for today. So making her commentary debut, I can welcome to the stream ScaredofBirds. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm well. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely not a problem. We've been trying our hardest to get you on, and it was always going to happen sooner or later. So, very glad to get it here. And as I say, for this exciting game, which I think we are probably ready to get started. So we're flipped. George has won the flip, and we'll be sending out the invite to Nedmund. So George, if you could go ahead and do that, please. We will get this game underway. So best of luck to both players in this winner takes all match. And here we go. We are getting stuck straight in here with the starting hand, and we have got a couple of good options. Definitely like to see that purple martin anytime you can get one of those in your starting hand. Very nice. So yeah, what's your take on this starting hand? Anything else kind of jump out to you there?
I like the falcon. I mean, that's a nice wetland bird. I know it can be risky with the dice rolling, but it's always really nice to get an egg unexpectedly. At 6 points, it's hard to turn that down in an opening hand sometimes. For me, if you don't have other strong wetland birds, I'd like to see the bonuses.
Yeah, I think the falcon is definitely a nice one, like you say. 6 points for a couple of food is nice, and if you can get it with the rodentologist or the falconer, that's even more nice indeed. So maybe the Wilson sniping the tray might be something they're considering as well. I think that's again 5 points for that one food with a pretty nice brown power to come alongside. I do definitely like that option. So visionary leader, maybe not the one to go for. Might have to be fishery manager there, but even so, that's not ideal here when you don't have any of those kind of birds in your starting hand.
You do have a couple in the tray, though. I mean, would you go for then, that little bittern starts looking a little more appealing?
It does. I would consider it definitely, and I think the fact that George is kind of looking here at not keeping any of the wetland options, I think that does definitely to me say, I mean, you got 3 good options in the tray. I'd be looking at that bittern or even that night heron. I think could work as well. But yeah, here we go. We have got Nedmund starting hand, and again, looking very, very nice there. I think good options for all the habitats, and I'm going to be looking at that Maltese warbler as an option here.
I know, and just hoping there's no bug with that.
always praying that there's no bug. But here we go, Nedmund looking quite keen to keep it as well. And Uologist, probably the straightforward keep there as well. Although with a couple of bowl nests, you might be tempted to go for the Wild Knife Gardener. But yeah, I wouldn't judge anyone, I think, for keeping the Uologist from the starting hand here. All right, so it looks like they're kind of not too keen on keeping a wetland bird. I guess, maybe if you're Nedmund in this position, you see that tray and you think, okay, my opponent might take one of those wetland birds, but that is going to leave at least one more for me. So, is that a kind of gamble you take and just sort of see what you can get?
We also might consider playing the house finch in the wetlands.
Very true. Yeah, that is an option. I think normally, when I see something like the house finch, I kind of immediately go, I want to put that in the grasslands, I think. Especially with this first end around goal, eggs in the grasslands, that is the default. But I have seen games where it can work in the wetlands as well. So we'll definitely see. But looks like for George here, they are just going to focus very much on setting up this forest and getting these couple of birds down. And I don't mind that, but I think they will need to think a little bit carefully about making sure they can get their hands on at least one of those wetland birds just to secure some of that card draw. Yeah, we've got some points in the chat about maybe grabbing the Wilson Snipe as a way to kind of feed that house finch. I like that. I think it works pretty well with this white start as well. Maybe if you're Nedmund, you go for food on this next turn, you get a seed for the house finch, and then you can get a worm as well. Maybe go for that snipe. So yeah, I like that idea in the chat. Definitely getting some extra cards there and just being able to tuck those is a good option to have.
And being able to just see cards to plan your moves for the Maltese Warbler.
Exactly. Yeah. I think anytime you have these kind of birds, like the white start, like the snipe, and even that bittern in the tray as well. Anytime when you're using Maltese Warbler and you can get additional resources at the same time as taking the actions, it's just so strong. Because really, to use that power, you've got to be hitting every habitat at least once, and so you want to keep that to a minimal. You want to really only do that once, maybe twice at a push. And so if you can make sure you're getting those extra resources when you're doing that, it just makes it a bit easier, I find, at least to make most of those extra actions you're getting with the Warbler. But maybe Hummingbird in the tray, I wonder if Nedmund's maybe tempted by that, and that definitely is a good option, again helping with some of these end of round goals, but a pretty nice brown power in it as well.
Is it going to be the sniper or the hummingbird? Oh.
Yeah, that for me was one of those positions where I feel like Nedmund's plan was to go for the snipe, and it can be so easy to get distracted. Something comes up in the tray, and you think to yourself, should I change my plan or should I stick with what I was going to go for? I feel like snipe. That's definitely good. For exactly the reasons we were saying, and that the chat has kind of been touching on as well. You get those extra cards and you tuck them with the house finch, and then maybe even play some of them with the Maltese Warbler. So yeah, it might be a bit of a challenge, I think, for Nedmund to get all of these birds down in this first round. Definitely using that Maltese Warbler power in that first round, it can be a bit of a struggle. But even if they can't do that, I think they're going to have a really nice setup here. Strong birds in all the habitats, really good access to cards and food. So it's definitely feeling like, of the two, I would say Nedmund is setting themselves up here for the stronger start.
Yeah, I think I agree. The food cost of these birds here in George's hand is a little daunting.
Yes, I agree. I think it's one of those where, if you can get your good forest set up, and I think definitely, to me, it looks like what George is planning is, to try and get the Nutcracker down, and then obviously that, extends your food production a little bit. But yeah, getting that Night Heron down, it's 9 points. It's going to be a really nice play when it does go down, but definitely on the expensive side. So I did wonder maybe if the Hummingbird there was just going to be a sort of grab to maybe help feed that. And again, I don't mind that. I think that can definitely work. But it is a bit of a risk. When you're up against Maltese Warbler, I think the opponent's always going to make use of that extra food. So we'll see how Nedmund manages with that. But yeah, just laying some eggs. Looks like they're kind of maybe biding their time. I think the bird feeder's not really set up how Nedmund wants it at the moment. So maybe a re-roll or a bit of free food from this Hummingbird can help them out there. Right, so we've got a grassland hummingbird, which I think is definitely where I would normally put it. You know, would you maybe have been tempted to put it in the wetlands there, ScaredofBirds, just to kind of build up the wetlands a little bit more and maybe get some food while you're drawing cards?
Yeah, I think that's tempting. Although with this end of round, I think grasslands is where it needed to go.
Yeah.
Especially considering the fishery manager bonus. I know I'm building my wetlands up, hopefully soon, you know. So I think I would probably put it in the grasslands as well, and then try to really prioritize getting down the nutcracker and then the night heron. I might even think about trying to get the night heron down first to look at that tray next round, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. I think fishery manager, it's one of those bonus cards, you know, there's not many birds eat fish that are going to go outside of the wetlands. So if you're going to give yourself every chance at maximizing on that and getting the full 8 points, you want to keep as many of those spaces open as possible to use those fish-eating birds. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. And like you say as well, the end of round, you know, at this point, those couple of eggs they can get in there is going to at least help to maybe tie or even compete for the win for this end of round goal. So yeah, I like that indeed. And hopefully, like you say, I think definitely the night heron should be going down sooner rather than later, because you really need that wetland bird. You don't want to be just drawing a single card at a time, but could potentially be a bit of a challenge for George to get that set up.
I think George has also identified the problem there in drawing that common little bitter, and I think it's going to be a strong card for them. It's just a shame it couldn't go down before round 2.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it, where you don't want to be spending too many times just drawing one card. It can feel really slow, especially in this first round. You know, you want to get things set up. I think you want to be getting the bird in the wetlands. I think like we've seen Nedmund do there with that Wilson snipe. So yeah, it's I think it's something like you say that George will have recognised and kind of thought to themselves, right, I really need to start getting this food. That bird feeder reroll is pretty nice. I think if you're looking for exactly the food to get down those 2 wetland birds, they can be pretty happy with that. But yeah, it's at this point it's just a matter of priorities, right? You know, do you generate your food first, or do you try and get the wetland bird down? I think that is kind of going to be the key decision here for George as we go into the second round.
And that reroll was not great for Nedmund. No. That is, you know, George is going to be happy to know that, at least.
No, but I think they could potentially look at going for food here. You know, you've got 3 fish, you can re-roll it, maybe go for that cherry. I'm imagining, you know, they've used all the activation, so the warbler is going to get used, and yeah, you know, maybe the house finch is something they're looking at, but maybe the golden oriole as well in the tray could work as a good second forest bird, I suppose, if you know your opponent's going to be setting up a nice forest to try and counter that. But I don't know, I've always kind of struggled to make that work in a 2-player context.
Yeah, it's much better in multi.
Absolutely. Okay, Lazuli bunting's not a bad grab either, especially if you're trying to hit Uologist. Being able to get some extra eggs is very nice, and Hooded Warbler as well for some good points. You know, you're getting plenty of worms from that white start power, so I am all for that. I think those are some good pickups. Will we see?
Cup nest.
Absolutely, another cup nest. That's going to help for that next end around, looking really strong. So, yeah, are we going to see the house finch go down, do you think, here with the additional play? Surely. There we go. Ooh, in the forest. Okay, that is very interesting. That is not what I kind of would have expected there. But do you know what? I think they can make that work if they are going to go for this lizardy bunting. But yeah, what do you make of that in the forest?
Wow, look at that.
Now they're going to be regretting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an instant regret, I think, to see the Franklin's goal and think, I'm not going to be able to get the tucks in the grassland off that. But yeah, you instantly grab that, and again, this bird feeder, it's got all the fish in the world, so that's gonna help a lot. Yeah.
Oh, they wish they got that first hit also.
That would have been much nicer than the cormorant, you feel, but you can't be picky, right? When you've been given a Franklin's gull, I think you take it and just be happy with it. So yeah, very, very nice. They'll be rushing to get that down, and I think for George, they were definitely rushing to try and get this nutcracker down. So Potentially looking at three or four food in the forest is very nice, and yeah, that's really going to help, I think, get some of these birds down, and again, get some in the wetlands, start drawing some cards. I think that has to be the goal here.
I think you're right, and I also think, honestly, the house finch in the forest is going to really help him, because now he can get more food. His tempo isn't compromised. And he can play the gull and then, basically anything really quickly.
Right.
After that.
Yeah, I actually, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I think this actually does work quite well, because you're giving yourself that chance to get cards when you're getting food as well. I think it is quite easy, obviously, to just play the gull and the house finch and the grasslands and then just lay eggs, see what you get. But like you say, the food source was always going to be a bit on the low side, and when you're looking at birds like the lizardy bunting, when you're trying to get these extra activations as well with the Maltese warbler, you're going to want to be taking food and you're going to want to be scoring points and cycling cards when you do that. So yeah, I think it can work, and I think definitely it's just all going to be about getting the goal down, drawing some cards, and then you see what food you need and then you go and get the food. I think that can work quite well here.
So my question is then, after this round where Nedmund's already drawn cards, does Nedmund forget about the warbler and stop drawing cards, or do they draw cards in order to play the extra bird for the last 2 rounds?
Right. It's always the dilemma, isn't it, where something like a gull, obviously, like you say, you're probably not going to need to use that wetlands ordinarily, but in order to activate the warbler power, I think it's situational. I think it's one of those where if it comes to that last turn and you were going to play a bird and you've already activated, or you've already hit all of the activations for the warbler, you may as well draw cards, because then you're going to get to play that bird anyway, so you at least get a couple of cards. And maybe if you can get some nice point scoring options there, I think it could work. But I wouldn't blame Nedmund in this position for just completely ditching that warbler and thinking, no, I'm just going to go all in on the grasslands with this goal and not worry too much about hitting that. I think that can work as well. Right, so George going very heavy on the food. I think now they've got this nice forest set up. I don't blame them at all for that. And yeah, plenty of food options. I think they can definitely look at getting these 2 wetland birds down. And even the bush tit, that's not a bad option for the wetlands. Once you kind of make of that, maybe getting some tucks and some eggs, because their grasses at the moment with just the hummingbird is not really looking too strong.
Yeah, I think the bush tit and the wetlands would be great. And I see in chat somebody was saying, Michael was saying the osprey for George would be good. And with the fishery manager, I think they're right. I think the osprey would be a lovely grab for them. Although, you don't always want to give food to your opponent who has a gull.
Right, that is always the danger. And we were actually having a discussion about this on the server only a few days ago, talking about these co-op birds and really trying to work out where the best places to use them are and where maybe you should think about avoiding them. And I think you're absolutely right. When George is going to look at Nedmund's board and think they're going to have cards all over the place, I don't really want to give them some extra free food. I can completely sympathise with that. So, but yeah, I think Nedmund, straightforward, as I said, they're just going to keep trying to draw cards with this Franklin's goal and kind of go from there. But yeah, I think George can really kind of quickly get this wetland set up right. You start building this up, you're going to get your cards, you get some eggs as well with the bush tit, and I think the night heron is probably going to follow as well. But again, the osprey, if you do play that, that's going to give you some extra fish. It's really going to help flesh the wetlands out a little bit more. So I'll be very interested to see if that does indeed get grabbed.
Right, and similar to the snipe, 5 points for 1 food. It's hard to beat.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you're looking for point efficient plays like that, it's really, really nice to be able to get a pretty nice point return for pretty minimal investment. And yeah, I would definitely consider grabbing it, I think, if I'm George in that position. But there we go. That is definitely a bird that George would have liked to get their hands on. So Nedmund maybe not going to play the cowbird, but maybe they will. It's a way of putting your opponent off pivoting at least. But yeah, pretty nice to be able to deny your opponent from getting that. Here we go. Is it going to happen? They're thinking about it, and the sparrow as well. I did see someone mention the sparrow in the chat as well. So I think that that is definitely an option. So yeah, tucking the falcon, and then I would not be surprised at all if we do see this osprey go down, just as a way to generate a bit of food and obviously help get that night heron down. Right, I would definitely be looking at that red cockaded woodpecker if I'm Nedmund. You got the food for that. You want to start building out this forest and getting some more birds down. That's a pretty nice pickup. So yeah, they will have to think carefully about what they're going to play here. They have got this Maltese Warble activation this round at least, because they have hit all of the different habitats. So yeah, I wonder if it's maybe the hooded warbler. Even they've got lots of good options. So I always find almost kind of you get overwhelmed sometimes when you've got too many options and lots of cards in hand that Nedmund's found themselves with here.
Yeah, the trap of wanting to do too much.
Right. Yeah, it is so easy to fall into that trap. I think definitely, we're still at this point of the game where I think you can have this grand plan of everything you're going to do. I think it's definitely easy to fall into that trap. Maybe later in round 3 where you've only got 5 or 6 turns left and you've really got to plan them all out carefully. I definitely find myself falling into that trap of going, I've got so many good birds and just not enough time to play them, and it is a real shame indeed. But looks like Lazuli Bunting is going to be the one to go down. And do you know what? If you're going to be playing a lot of eggs, I don't really mind that at all. You're going to really maximise off that, plenty of space as well. But maybe switch up to the woodpecker, see what they get. Ooh, tricky one. Probably bird counter. I don't think you really look to breeding manage in that position, but maybe it could have worked out better. They might just be kind of gambling on getting that grackle or something to add alongside. Yeah,
wanting more tucking birds.
Absolutely, and it's hard to say no to more tucking birds. So I completely sympathise that position. But here we go.
Aside from this Canada Goose in their hand, which
well, I mean,
it's not the best for this game just yet.
It could work. It could work. Maybe you put that in the wetlands, and then that's your way of scoring points while drawing cards to hit the warbler. I don't know. If it's a 5-point bird because you got your bonus card, I think stranger birds have been played than that. So I wouldn't mind it at all. But not the kind of tray you want to see. I think if you're George going into round 3, you've got 2 of those sideways birds and a migratory bird. You kind of hope for better options to be choosing from when you're kind of looking to set up that final round.
Yeah, no Roll 16s happening on the bright side.
No, and
any of those cards.
yeah, I don't blame them at all. But looks like lots of food being set up here, so I think probably preparing to get this night heron down, definitely, maybe the osprey, and I think even that quail or even the sparrow. Lots of options here, lots of options for George to go with. So again, it can sometimes find yourself in that position of sort of being overwhelmed with options, but definitely look to get some of those down and maybe compete for this end of round, because really at the moment Nedmund not with a whole lot of options in the wetlands to be laying eggs on, and not a whole lot of options to be playing either. So I'll be interested to see how this one plays out.
Yeah, and the sparrow could be super helpful for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it gives more space in the grasslands, and it's also going to help you lay more eggs as well. So I don't mind that. I think that works, and just kind of really hammer the eggs. Maybe again, kind of like we talked about with the osprey. Is this a position where you would look at using the hummingbird, or are you going to skip that purely because your opponent's got the Franklin's Gull?
I would probably skip it. What would you do?
I think I would as well. I think you kind of look at the food that Georgia's got in their supply at the moment already. They've got a pretty strong forest as well. So I think, I don't know, unless there's a food in there that I desperately need, and I think just grabbing that one food means I don't have to go to the forest. Maybe in that kind of position I would activate, but I think the majority of the time I just feel really nervous, when you're giving away food to an opponent with such strong grasslands and such strong card access. It's a really scary position to be putting yourself in.
It's very easy to think, if I just had this little bit more food, my engine will be set up, I'll be able to really do well, but your opponent might be thinking the exact same thing.
Absolutely.
It's a little bit scary.
Absolutely. And kind of like we talked about before, you can get yourself in this position of having these grand plans of, I'm going to play this and I'm going to play this, and if I just get that bit more food, I can do all of this, and then suddenly you've only got 2 turns left, and I need to lay eggs for the end of round and hit my bonus card. So it is very easy to kind of fall into that trap. So pretty strong egg-laying grasslands though that George has got set up, so they are indeed looking pretty strong, I think, for this end of round. So would definitely like to see this Night Heron and Osprey still go down at some point. Definitely, try and get at least a Night Heron for the points and the bonus card, and then Osprey as well. Maybe just one more for the fishery manager. I do like that as an option to go with. So it looks like Osprey at least. Maybe they're kind of considering going back and forth. I definitely think they need to start laying eggs at some point to hit this end of round.
Yeah, and this is one of those times where it would be very tempting to try out the hummingbird to get a worm.
Yeah. I was thinking the same.
Your opponent would possibly take the fish, and you can reroll.
Yeah, I think that is one of those where you're almost kind of lured into it and you're tempted into it. But I think these players are kind of smart enough. I think Nedmund definitely. They've already got fish. They're probably not looking for another one. You probably would grab the cherry there at least and just stop your opponent from getting the reroll. But we'll see. This is going to be the moment of truth. Are we going to see the hummingbird? We are indeed. So is Nedmund going to pass the test? Are they going to take the fish or the cherry? I feel like definitely you want to take cherry here. And,
they have to take the cherry.
Yeah, and just stop the reroll. I think unless you had Puffin in your hand and you were thinking, I need all this fish to play it.
Right.
There we go. And then, even now, we talk about having the gull and the real strong card draw, but Nedmund has been very quietly building up this forest. A couple of white powers in there, but you're still extending that out. You get yourself 3 food, you get yourself a tuck card, and then another one from the white start. So it's a good option to have. And I think just maybe a little bit more digging here, using the gull. You try and find that nice big point wetland bird. You play that with the heron. I think that feels like a pretty natural plan for Nedmund to kind of be going into this final round with.
Sure, and then George's plan will be to play those 2 fish-eating birds and look for another one to maximize that bonus. Yeah, I
think so. And again, just having the Osprey down. If you're going to draw cards, you can see 3 cards. You maybe pick up a 4th with the bittern as well. You can start to get the food for that on the same turn. So if you are fortunate enough to find that fish bird, you get a fish with the Osprey. You maybe get an extra food that you need with the Night Heron if that's going to go down as well. And you put yourself in a strong position. So I think a lot for George is going to be riding, as it always does seem to do in Wingspan, on that final round tray. If we get a puffin, if we get a woodstock, any kind of big fish-eating birds, George is going to be all over that, and that's exactly what they're going to be looking for. Yeah, there we go. We do start to get the bunting activated as well. So some free eggs for George, which I think are always definitely welcome, particularly with this end of round goal. So I think they will just need to kind of go through and count and just make sure that they are putting themselves in a position that can still control the end of round. And maybe are we going to see them go for round 2, try for the worm to get this Night Heron down?
Would you do it? I probably would. Honestly.
I think I would. Yeah. When you can get a reroll, you're pretty likely to get that worm. So here we go. Put yourself first. Don't make that mistake. And there we go. You get your worm. That's very nice. And definitely look to get the Night Heron and the Osprey down with that. Very nice combination. And Starling. I think I saw someone in the chat say that the Starling would have been good for George, obviously, with all that food, but I think it works pretty well here for Nedmund. You've got that real nice forest with plenty of food generation, and you've got your food. You've got your opponent potentially giving you some extra food. With the Osprey, maybe if that's going to go down. Obviously, this hummingbird as well. So that could be a potential option, I think, to go in the wetlands or even the grasslands, just to kind of get that fleshed out to that 4th spot. Now, I was wondering if we were going to see a card drawing action. So it looks like Nedmund is determined to get this Maltese Warbler activated, and I like to see that. So I can't blame them at all for going for that. And yeah, maybe not the best pulls from the deck, but they are still going to get this. They are still going to get this extra play from the Maltese Warbler.
Right, and you get to see more cards.
Absolutely, yeah. You maybe if they drew a puff in there, we'd be calling them a genius. So
right.
It always does depend a little bit on the card draw.
Absolutely.
But they still got this House Finch, so knowing if they are still going to try and activate this Maltese Warbler in that final round, maybe get an extra tuck off that and kind of see where you go. But there we go. Night Heron has gone down for George there. Very nice to see that happen. And yeah, I think are they on 4 eggs in each habitat? Perhaps it might be quite close for this end of round. Although I think I think George has got it under control. Even if Nedmund is going to use this bunting, I don't think just because of that snipe, that's really their limiting factor. So they are going for food. Don't really mind that. And there we go. That Avocet, I think that's okay. You do that double play, maybe with the blue heron, and yeah, that's your wetlands kind of fleshed out a bit more. You get some pink power activations. I think in this game, I always say that pink powers, you want to get them down early, but I think even at this stage in the game it can work because you can almost anticipate that your opponent is going to go for a late game Grasses pivot, and so if you can just sort of chip away at that a little bit and make sure you're getting a point every time they're getting a point, I think that works as well. But here we go, we have the Starling. Kudos to whoever it was in chat that called that out. Starling has indeed gone down, so yeah, I think just being able to turn some of this food into extra points, and if they are going to use this Maltese Warbler, maybe they are going to get a bit of extra food from this final round as well. So it gives some options. I think it definitely gives some options. So yeah, I'll be interested to see if they can sort of maximize off that next round. Obviously, maybe just three tuck cards from it here, but yeah, just kind of think about what you're planning on doing into the next round. But I'm going to ask our viewers, and I'm going to ask you as well, ScaredofBirds, as we go into this final round, who do you think is going to win? Who do you think is in the stronger position right now?
It's such a hard question. I mean, both of them, it's such different games. I'm always inclined to say the player with the gull is going to win. That's the scariest thing you can see with your opponent, one of the OP birds, right?
Yeah.
But I think that George is going to have the last end of round as well. And if George can maximize the fish bonus, I think he has a really good chance.
Yeah, it is always the most difficult question, which is why I always ask the other person to answer it first rather than myself, because I almost sometimes don't know. We get so many close games on these streams that are really difficult to call. But yeah, I think the fishery manager, like you say, if they can get a really huge big point bird for that is going to be nice. Equally, they might just be kind of settling with the 3 points they've got from that and just kind of try and lay some eggs. But I'm trying to remember what the second bonus was. It was tucking birds, wasn't it, that Nedmund's got? So they're going to get 2 points from that. You'd assume they're going to get that pretty safe 6 points from the orologist, so they're not doing too badly either there as well. I don't know, I think a lot of it is going to come down to this final round and see how this plays out. And again, is Nedmund going to go for this activation of the Maltese Warbler, or are they just going to kind of settle and go for the egg spam? That's always the difficult dilemma that you find yourself in.
I also find that for with the European expansion, I'm still not as good at predicting game outcomes. The scores just completely throw me for a loop sometimes. So I think guessing has gotten even more difficult.
Yeah, I almost find definitely the round end powers, they can swing things a lot without you really noticing. You kind of forget that you can get maybe 5 or 10 points from those at the end of the round, depending on whether you qualify for them or kind of how many activations you get. And yeah, they can really swing. And obviously we do see Nedmund has got a couple of those down, so we'll be interested to see if they can maximize off those. But yeah, I feel like with the European expansion, it's definitely given more options to score points, and it's definitely given more chances, I think, for people to drag themselves back into it. And sometimes you're just that one card draw away from getting the bird you need, and then everything slots into place. So that definitely can happen in this game. So yeah, I'm wondering for Nedmund, they grab that blackbird. Are they going to think maybe just go for cards, play that, and then lay eggs? Is that what you would do? Or I don't know. It's kind of a tricky position here when you've not got the obvious nice big point bird in your hand to try and play.
Right, and they're going to have to get food if they want to play any more birds anyway. So after that, there's only 3 turns left.
Yeah.
So, the blackbird ends up being not worth very much, although it is nice they have the tucking bonus. So I'm sure they're looking at that chestnut collar.
Yes. Yeah, I think
that could work too. The bird feeder's just not friendly for either.
No, and I think you're right. I think the longspur is definitely a good option. When it comes to something like the blackbird, I think it is very easy to look at that and, like you say, you go, okay, here's my bonus card. I've got loads of cards with the gull. I could just tuck them all. But when you think about it, one turn getting food, one turn playing it, you only actually get 2 turns activating it. So your potential for points is just so limited. If you compare that to maybe if they played that at the end of last round and you give yourself maybe 4 or 5 times activating it, that's a huge difference. So yeah, if the bird feeder was full of worms and seeds, I'd be grabbing those and playing this longspur. But this is a tricky position, I think, for Nedmund. You don't want to have to go for food twice in this final round if you can really avoid it. You want to try and lay eggs as much as possible. But
yeah, absolutely. And you're looking at George and you're thinking, they don't have that much food either, aside from the cached weeds.
Right.
So maybe they're going to try to mix up that bird feeder or send the hummingbird, and either of those would be useful.
Absolutely. Yeah, this could definitely be...
You don't have time.
Yeah, this could definitely be a crucial hummingbird position. If we do see that getting activated, maybe that might just be that little bit of food that Nedmund was missing, like that final piece of the puzzle to get some nice birds down. So yeah, definitely the bird feeder has not been super nice for kind of either player in that position. But yeah, I think getting the seed there, that might really tempt Nedmund into going for the tucking. But now the snow bunting's in play, that kind of throws everything up in the air.
It really does. That's a fun play.
Yeah, I like it. I'm trying to remember if the blackbird was in the tray and if Georgia knew that it was there, or if that's just kind of a complete stab in the dark that was going to happen. But yeah, I think that's a good play. It's kind of that next grass and bird. You can now get 4 eggs and then 2 from the brown powers as well, and you're really limiting your opponent's point potential with this blackbird that has gone down. So that's really nice for George, and definitely that might swing things back into their favour a little bit here. All right, is it hummingbird time? Indeed. Yeah, there we go. I like that. Skip the hummingbird. I think they've just about got the perfect egg space to lay eggs these last 2 turns and not fill up. So yeah, that feels like good final round planning there for George, just to really make sure that they're able to maximise the points and kind of not miss out on any eggs.
Do we have poll results?
We have ongoing poll at the moment, so 9 votes in total. We've got 5 votes for Nedmund and 4 for George, so it's pretty neck and neck in terms of what the chat thinks. Yeah, I think sometimes the chat likes to stay away from these because it is too difficult to call, and I completely sympathise with that. So yeah, it's I think we did get a little bit of a flash of Nedmund's score a couple of turns back. So yeah, that definitely you would hope it would be higher. I think there we go, 81 points. So yeah, we're looking at maybe somewhere in the 90s for them. I'm not really sure where George is going to be, but they're going to have plenty of eggs, which is very nice. And a couple more tucks off this snow bunting. I think they have performed very well in the end of round goals, and I say it time and time again, if you're coming up against these kind of engines and you can hit 2 or even 3 of the end of round goals, that can be a real nice way to kind of capitalize on maybe areas that your opponent's missing out on. So I don't mind that at all. But here we go. Maybe is Cassius Finch going to go down and a late game bonus card gamble?
It looks like it. That's pretty fun.
That is always fun. I do like to see that because that can have a huge swing. You play that if you find a 6-point bonus card, a 7-point bonus card that is just absolutely dream for you. Yeah, that can swing the result of the game. So I definitely like that, and I think that was quite savvy. I think from George, they saw the Cassin's Finch in the tray, they got the tuck with the snow bunting, and thought, yeah, I'm going to grab that. I want that, and
running out of egg space.
Right. Yeah. I think they were doing okay for egg space, but obviously this lazuli bunting has been giving some egg space or giving some egg space problems really, and I think they're already full there on the bowl nest. So definitely get the finch down. You get yourself that free egg. I like that. Obviously, missing out on the snow bunting tuck is going to be a bit of a frustration, but yeah, if they can get a nice bonus card. And I think maybe that's what the chat is thinking, because we've just had a couple more votes in for George, so it is swinging back and forth. Oh, this is a tough one.
That's such a hard choice. It's a huge gamble.
It is. I think what they're thinking about is, I don't want to miss out on this snow bunting tuck. But if they choose not to play the finch, they're going to miss out on the free eggs anyway. So they have tucked it. So we are going to see no gamble. They're going for the safe play. That'd be interesting if this is a close match, which I feel like it is going to be. You maybe start to think to yourself, what bonus cards could I have got? But they are still at least going to get those couple of tucks, because I do imagine that we are going to see. Actually, that was the last turn, wasn't it? So Nedmund has done all of their egg laying anyway. They got a few foods. Oh, that free food as well from the hummingbirds. That's an extra point on the starling. Yeah. So that might come back into play as well. But here we go. It is a pretty strong end of round goal performance there for George. And so we go into the score. So, I don't know. I think Nedmund is probably just going to edge it. But I honestly don't know. I think this is going to be quite a close one. Idea. So obviously Nedmund having that early lead with the birds and the bonus cards. But yeah, just all of those end of round goal points. That is so nice to see if you're George. And then eggs. I think George is going to edge it slightly there as well. So it's going to come down to the tuck cards. Oh, and there we go. It was a close one in the end.
Very close.
Very, very close. Just 3 points in it. Nedmund sneaking it from George. And there we go. You ask yourself that question, do you gamble on that bonus cards? Maybe you get, you look at it, even just sort of 4 or 5 points could potentially have been enough to get them back into that. But very well played, 2 very high scores, and we like to see those indeed. So yeah, we will just very briefly get the players back into the room. So I'll make sure both the players are taken off deafen, and yeah, we'll come first to Nedmund. So obviously, first of all, congratulations, Nedmund. Very, very close game in the end, but there we go. You have sealed your place in the next round of the World Cup. How does that feel?
Yeah, feeling pretty good. I think I've fallen just short of hitting streamed games a few times before, so I'm glad that I was able to deliver when I did make it on. And obviously very lucky with that Raven appearing in round 2.
Nice. Yeah, no, I mean it was a good performance. I think we didn't know which way it was going to go. It felt very close. I think the chat agreed it was always going to be a close game. And yeah, when you have such a strong bird, and obviously you can lay lots of eggs, and the Maltese warbler as well did get a couple of uses, which I quite like to see. So I think that definitely helped as well. But yeah, a good performance, and I think I'll come now to George as well. Good performance, just slightly falling short, which is a shame, but very well played. I think for me, the key question I want to ask you is, what was going through your head at the end with the bonus card? Do you play the Cassin's Finch? It's always a gamble. That was definitely a tricky decision to make, really, there at the end.
Yeah, in hindsight, they should have gone for it. I didn't realize it was that close. I wasn't expecting him to go full X, that I would actually get multiple bunting activations.
Yes. So... Yeah, I think that's what we were thinking. I was looking at your egg space and thinking, George has planned this out perfectly. They're going to be able to lay eggs just 3 times and fill up completely. But it was all those bunting activations were kind of coming in and filling up too quickly. So yeah, it's a tricky decision going for that gamble at the end. And sometimes it's worth it, but equally, maybe you play it and you get a dud bonus card and completely miss out. So that can equally be frustrating.
Also,
the nice thing about
that many bonuses we can go for with this.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's true. The nice thing about playing the board game is you can actually then look at the cards and see what you could have done. I think that's a frustration with digital.
Well, sometimes it's better not to know what would have happened.
That's true.
Ignorance is bliss and all that. So, but yeah, there we go. Very good game. Thank you both players for streaming that. I definitely enjoyed that. And yeah, congratulations again to Nedmund for making it through into the next round of the World Cup. So we will call it a day there. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching. We will have at least a couple more, I think, planned for this playoff round to come through. So yeah, definitely keep your eyes peeled for that, and do hopefully tune in for more live streams again very, very soon.